All right, time for the main event, the night bus. So we know lots about it, and there's some things we don't know about it. But remote fortressing is officially official, and it's coming very soon, apparently. How important is this for WoW right now? I mean, this is massive.
So important. So important.
Massive.
It's the thing literally everybody has been asking for since lockdown. It was the first thing that I saw people say that they wanted most of all. And yeah, I can't believe it's actually going to be happening.
It's going to be a godsend for rural players.
Yeah. And the best thing about it is it's not just for lockdown. It's going to be in the game forever now. Not sure if they will change anything after lockdown, the mechanics of it or anything, but for right now, it's free. It's unlimited. But I have seen some people saying that perhaps that they may start limiting it if the servers can't handle it. But for now, it's free, except for obviously the spell energy that you need to use and the rune stones that you need to use. But it doesn't cost anything to go there.
I'm absolutely going to abuse this night bus so much. And hopefully try and sync up with you guys. We can give it a go and see if it does work or not.
That's my only concern, because obviously I'm not in Cardiff right now, but my main concern, and I did joke about like people taking my elites that I need for my achievement, but I'm worried that there's going to be these other players that I'm end up stuck with, and they are either not going to put in and pull their weight, or they're just going to sort of ruin it somehow.
Yes.
Because, like, obviously when I've done it with you guys, like, I can communicate with you and I trust you, but you could, there's so much we don't know still, like you said. Like, we could end up with 3 auras.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's going to be a way to try and match us into different, a more even split of the professions or anything. And yeah, people are going to abuse it. Please don't. If you're one of these people thinking you're going to, don't do it. If you're low on spell energy, just don't go in the higher chambers. Don't sit there and let other people waste all of theirs. Go into the lower chambers, like Ruins 1, 2, and if you happen to be with people then, it doesn't matter because it won't cost them very much spell energy to get through it, so that's fine.
There's going to be a massive adjustment period with this.
It is.
It's huge on the scale of what this will do to change the fundamentals of the game. I mean, for instance, in most games, there's like a class-based system where like you make sure that there's at least one of each class in your party. Is that going to be in place here? I doubt it. And then you've got situations where obviously, like Beth's just said, you know, you're going to have situations where people are going to immediately dive on the elites because they need it for their achievement, and, you know, they're not being weakened properly, and then people are going to end up dying, and they haven't got a Magizoologist in their party to revive them, you know, and then they end up running out of time, or you're going to have people dropping randomly. The adjustment period of this is going to be hectic. It's not going to be easy. And and
especially add in any server problems they may have in the beginning. So while I really love that we're going to do it, I'm trying not to expect too much from it in especially the first couple of weeks. I mean, we have to realise this is a massive change to the game, and it is going to have teething problems. But as long as you're willing to, you know, fight through that for a little bit, I think it is going to be the best feature that they've ever put into the game.
100%. Yeah.
Because
yeah, despite the problems you're going to get, you're going to have a lot of good stuff coming out of it as well.
You really are.
So.
And I think, you know, as we said, when we were chatting about it earlier, just starting on the lower levels first, the lower level chambers, you know, just until you can kind of get to grips with it, and then work your way up maybe, because you're going to be joining with different people every time, and as long as you know you can get through comfortably, you know, some of the tower chambers, for instance, like even the higher tower chambers, you could probably manage to get through one of those on your own, even if you had 4 other people who weren't pulling their weight in the chamber. You could probably still, you know, at worst, potion it off, or, you know, sacrifice a runestone then maybe for those.
Because I mean, this,
if you start on the lower ones, just try to get to grips with it first.
That's the huge thing about this as well, because I think we need to bear in mind, and I think a lot of people do need to bear in mind, that this will be the first time some people have ever actually fortressed before. Some people, this is a feature of the game they just are not acclimatized to at all.
Yeah, some people don't have one in range they can get to, or if they have, they've played it a few times, but as a solo player, and as we know, solo play and group play they're like 2 different games almost. What you need to do to be able to play in a group is completely different, because you have to make sure all the resources are used to help the entire group, not just yourself. So and there will be adjustment, and, you know, you're going to have to maybe do a little bit of research. If you're listening to this podcast, you will be, because we will tell you in a minute. But you need to do a little bit of research on your own profession, on how you can use that effectively. And also, anybody who's already knows it, be a bit patient with people, because they are going to be learning.
Yeah.
And if they're trying, then that's fine. So
yeah, because just a quick thing, because I'm solely a solo player for the most part. When I did do that One Fortress meetup with you guys, it was that sort of adjustment, and I think people need to just keep that in mind, because especially with it'll be a slightly different system anyway. I think it's just the case of being mindful, and like you can have people of different levels, like they've only got so far in their like tree and like done so many lessons, especially if you've not done a load of fortresses, you might not be as far through your profession's tree. So
they shouldn't be too high up on the chambers then though as well. So obviously everybody can only fortress up to where they've already unlocked, but some people are going to use this to help pull them through to the higher chambers. And, we do that with, like, for instance, with Beth and others who have met up only a few times with us rather than every time. We've helped pull them through up to Dark 5. But we can communicate and tell them what to do while we're there in a group.
You sat there right next to them.
But as far as we know, there's not going to be any tool for communication with this.
No voice chat, which is a big, it's a huge thing.
Yeah, I'm dead. Revive me.
It was a lot of that, wasn't it, Steph?
Yeah.
I'm dead, help!
Yeah, Beth, give me some...
Revive me,
right.
revive me.
There's no text.
Yeah.
No emojis.
But yeah, each profession has different hexes and charms to use and different things that they can do. And if you're going to do a Dark 5 chamber, really you need at least one of each. And usually I would say 2 auras and either 2 magis and a prof, or 2 auras, 2 professors and a magi. You need a good mix there to be doing them. So we're going to talk about a little bit of what each profession can do and where is best to spend their focus. We don't have a professor on with us, so hopefully we give the correct advice. I have played with a lot of professors, so I know exactly what they can do to help me. Okay, the first profession I'll talk through is Aura, because I've done all my lessons on Aura. I've been Aura from the start, so I know that one quite well. So we're proficient at Dark Wizards and Death Eaters. Okay, so that they are the things that we want to be battling every time. We will take those as Auras. We are neutral against werewolves and pixies, but neutral against werewolves is still very hard. They hit hard, so leave those to the professors. So one of the best things that you can have as an aura is First Strike, which gives you plus 50% critical power if you hit a foe with 100% of their power the first hit. You might not have the plus 50% to start with, but you can work through and get those on the lessons. So that's a good one. It's worth then taking a first hit at every foe, even if you're not proficient against it, to try and get that extra crit hit. And one of our best things that we can do is to give focus to other players. The Magizoologists and the professors always need more focus. Normally they can tell you what they need, but they're not going to be able to do in remote. So my advice would be to give the focus to the professors first, and then when you've got some elites on the screen and they're pretty much the last things left, start giving your focus to Magizoologists so that they can use their charm to raise everybody's proficiency against elites. Okay, we have the Weakening Hex, which can reduce foe power by up to 50%. You want to be only using those on elites, dangerous and fierce, so 4 and 5 star foes. Don't use them on anything less. It's better to spend your focus elsewhere. The Confusion X, which lowers the dodge, defense, and defense breach by up to 60%, is really, really good for Earthlings and Pixies. But you don't want to be using those on low foes either. So only on Imposing, Dark Wizard, and Earthling, and then Dangerous and Fierce Pixie, Werewolf, Dark Wizard, and Earthling. Don't use them on spiders, they do nothing to them. So that's pretty much the aura. They do have a 0 focus one, deals 1 to 3 damage. The only advice there, you use it, but do not use it as the first hit on anything, because then you don't get that extra critical power.
And then obviously you've got Magizoologists. So Magis are proficient at spiders and feelings, apparently, Laurie.
My autocorrect corrected Earthlings to felins, but Magis are also, they're healers. They help with feelings too.
They do help with feelings, yeah. But no, that is supposed to say Earthlings, so autocorrect strikes again. But yeah, so Magis are kind of like the healing class in the game. So obviously, where Auror is kind of like the DPS dealer, the damage per second, Magis are the healers. So one of the key things, obviously, Magizoologist can do is a Revive Charm, which basically can bring players back from the dead. That's why it's so crucial to have one in your team, because you will probably die quite often in the early stages. So if you have someone there who can bring you back, it's really, really crucial to have at least one Magi in your party somewhere. And that is one focus, so that's super, super low as well. And that's a really interesting point I'm going to come to in a minute, because it also compares to the Stamina Charm, which is actually... You might initially start... Well, this is quite interesting, because when I was first playing as a Magi in Fortresses, I probably used that more than I did reviving, because I just thought it would be better to heal players consecutively. But actually, as I've played more and more over time, I've been using that less and less, and actually just letting players die and then reviving them because they come back with full health. So
the Stamina Charm, not worth it. Let them die.
Yeah. I know that sounds a bit crass and a bit harsh, but seriously, it's worth it.
Maybe the only time to use it would be perhaps if somebody is battling the last foe. And you've got the spare focus. It's quicker to give them some more stamina than letting them die and go back in.
Yeah. And then Laurie alluded to it earlier, the Bravery Charm, which is actually used, so that's a massive 7 focus. That's a real whopper, and that's the biggest one that Magizoologists can have in their arsenal. But what it does, essentially, it increases all of your team power against elites. So, and elites are what you're going to find a lot more of in the higher chambers. You're not going to find them too much up to, I'd say, probably about Tower Chamber 1. They're not so common. Then, and as you get into the Tower Chambers, they start getting more frequent. Forest,
unless you're incredibly lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you can get them in, even in Ruins 2 and things, but
I can
don't have to, they're going to be easy. Normally one shot, so you don't have to, put anything on them anyway. So it's really only as you're getting into the Tower Chambers that elites are going to start giving you a bit of trouble.
Yeah. And another key point with the Bravery Charm as well, Magizoologists have a maximum of 12 focus. You should only really use the Bravery Charm when you have a maximum focus. And I'll get onto that very shortly. Stamina Charm, as we've mentioned, 2 focus, restores a maximum of 15 to 30% of stamina. As you sort of mentioned, it's not really worth using. It can be in a pinch, especially if you're a bit short on time towards the end of a chamber. So if you know that, if the difference between dying is actually going to be more time consumptuous than actually healing someone, then it might be worth doing. But generally speaking, as you've got plenty of time to mess around within the chamber, it's always better to revive rather than to heal. The Mending Charm is 0 focus. Again, that's a very minor thing, which I don't think I haven't used it for a long, long time.
No. It's good to get the achievement of using 3,000. What was it? 3,000 of your charms or hexes in a fortress.
Yeah. But it's a 0 focus thing, so you can't expect a lot from it, and it's there, so you can always do something in a chamber if you've got no focus. But that's why it's so important for Aurors to provide focus to Magizoologists, so that position is, you're never in that position. Now, the big one is you've got to keep your focus above 5 for Become the Beast. So if you look at your Magizoology tree, halfway down, there's kind of like a salamander-type creature, and it's called Become the Beast as an icon. And that essentially means when you've got if you've only got 5 or more focus, it increases your power by plus 40. So it really massively improves your damage output. And there's one thing I will say for Magizoologists, they are not the strongest fighters in your party. They have the highest amount of health by a landslide. I mean, they've got something like 512, 517 health off the top of my head. So they are tanks. They can take a lot of damage. But they don't dish the damage out just as well. So having Become the Beast on is so important for that. And as I say, watch your stamina for that though, because if it dips below 4, you really do take a bit of a damage hit on.
No, that's focus.
Focus hit, yeah.
No.
But yeah, Magizoologists, great class, love it to pieces, and yeah.
Yeah, and watch your stamina as a Magi, because if you're the only Magi, nobody else can revive you.
Yes.
So make sure you stay alive. So have some health potions going in to make sure that you're the one who's reviving yourself, basically.
Basically, just remember the Bee Gees if you're on your own. Stay alive.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
God.
And then that leaves Professor.
Yeah, so, okay, with Professor, they can be one of the most important as well. Well, everybody's important, but they have some, things that are really good for the team, the whole team. For instance, they are proficient against werewolves and pixies.
Yep.
And I know at least one person who despises werewolves and will never, ever fight them.
I don't know anyone on this call who does that.
Don't know what you mean.
Don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so the best, I think one of the best charms that they have is the proficiency charm. It's very high, again like Magi's, it's a 7 focus charm, but that increases the team proficiency by 16 to 44%. So anything that you're fighting that you are proficient against, you get that up to 44% boost against them. That is, you really do notice the difference in the higher chambers. So again, auras, give your focus to professors right at the start so they can get that in for everybody from the start, basically. And then they've got the Deterioration X, which costs 3 focus. That one reduces the stamina of a foe by 10 to 40 when it attacks you. So when it attacks you and you use Protego, it kind of does a rebound on them. That's really good for any professors who like to do solo battles in the lower chambers. It means that they can do a fortress without using any spell energy. It's a bit time consuming, but it's a way to get through if you're low on spell energy. And then you've got the Protection Charm, which is 3 focus, and it increases a player's defense by 16 to 30%. The first player that you want to give that to is a Magi. So Magizoologists need to be protected, they need to stay alive to keep the rest of the team alive. So as soon as you've got enough focus for that after the proficiency charm, give that to your Magis. And then obviously if you've got some more, you can start protecting yourself or anybody else. Auras are very weak. We don't have a lot of stamina. We take hits very hard and we go down fast. So maybe shield your auras too. But then there is the Mending Charm, which is not that great. It restores 2 to 4 stamina.
Very similar to the Magi.
It's a 0 focus one. It's one to use just to maybe get that achievement for the 3,000 strategic spells. Professors have conditional skills that raises their powers or defense. So they have to have impairments or enhancements. So for instance, some of them might be 2 enhancements to have a higher power. I'm not exactly sure of the whole tree. You can look through yourself to see what it is that you want to aim for there. But with the enhancements, things like your charms do count. But another thing that people don't realise counts are potions. You can have a Berefio on, and that counts as 1 enhancement. You can even have a Dawdle Graft on. It doesn't get used in the fortress, but it does count as an enhancement. And then impairments are the hexes, for instance, the auras, one where they are lower in the power or the defense. So some of your skills will need 2 or 3 of those on. So pay attention, have a look through your skill tree, see which ones you want to aim for, and then use potions as necessary, or you can hex them yourself. So is there anything else I've missed there with what you think each profession should be looking to do?
No, 100% you covered everything.
I do like to be thorough.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's just got to really know what they can do, because I guess when you are going to be dropping into fortresses with other people, it's almost going to be expected from some people that you're still going to play the same way you would with your friends, unless you're in a fortress fumbling about with other people who are in the same mindset as you, which you may get in the lower ones. I'm thinking, people who are on the really low ones are just in there, just trying to get their chambers up, really.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, like I said, it is going to be different. For instance, I never use health potions, even in Dark 5. In fact, I never use any potions, even in Dark 5, with our group that we have.
Yeah.
And we barely have to speak to each other about the game while we're playing, because we work really well together. We've been playing for nearly a year together from the start. So I think that we're going to have to use a few more health potions than you normally would, because your Magi is not always going to know that you're dead. If they might not be checking very often. So actually, that's another thing for Magizoologists. Remember to check in the lobby see if anybody is
down, basically. Yeah.
If to, revive them. Make sure that you're doing that and check what energy they're on as well, maybe before you go back in, how much stamina they got left, so then you can kind of guess how long it's going to take them to go down. Yeah. So there's going to be a little bit different to if you sat around the table with your friends doing it, because no communication.
Well, that's an interesting point, actually, because I've mentioned how we don't really use the stamina charm too much, because it's not so much, we prefer, because we can coordinate more openly and tell like when people are dead. But when you're in a situation where you can't speak to that person, you might actually find that you're using that stamina charm more.
Yeah, but again, I don't think it's worth it, because you can get 2 revives out of it than the stamina charm.
Yeah. I mean,
and especially if you don't have that very high as well.
It's definitely more stamina focus consumptive.
Yeah.
It's much better to be using revives if you can, but obviously when you're in a situation where you can't be sat in the lobby when every second counts.
There's things like the invigoration drafts. I haven't brewed or used those for a long time. They do give you extra focus, so maybe have a couple of those, just in case you're in a situation where you either don't have an aura with you, or that aura is not quite up to speed yet. They don't really know that they have to keep giving you focus to be able to help you to use your own charms and hexes. So maybe have a couple backup just in case. Actually, that's another thing. If you look at each foe before you battle it, it will tell you how much focus it's going to give you. Some are 0 focus, some are 1, and they can be up to like 3. So try to go for the ones first that give you that focus, so it builds everybody's focus up really quick. Yeah. So that would be something else to look out for.
I was just going to say about the droughts. I use them as a fill-in professor. So even if you wanted to move on to one that you're, say, weaker against, they can still help even not being an aura. So I guess it is going to take an adjustment period. So my best advice would be stock up on potions.
Yeah. I mean, the wit sharpening potion is not something I use anymore, because I always have a Magizoologist with me to be able to use that Bravery Charm against elite. But again, you might have a Magi who either is not quite sure how to use that or when, or isn't using it as soon as you would like. I mean, try to wait as long as possible. Don't just jump into the first elite that you see. I know that everybody wants it for the achievement, but it's really, if you're in a high chamber, it can be the difference between failing and winning that challenge. Because if you go in too quick and you're, taken down really fast and you're not getting through the elites as quick as you could with that Bravery Charm active, you're going to run out of time. Yep. So wait as long as you can. But if the Magizoologist hasn't used it, then use a wit sharpening potion, because that will help you to take down those elites.
But obviously, a lot of people haven't even mastered their class yet. So I mean, there are some people who still don't know the full spectrum of what their class can do in the game. So there will be a lot of people learning the game for the first time. There'll be veterans. What you'll probably have is a lot of veterans probably leading parties and kind of organising things a little bit and trying to get people to kind of work together and things. So there will be some of that in there, but I think it's always important to be self-sufficient going into chambers at the moment, especially since you can't buddy up with friends for the time being.
Yeah, and another thing, you might see some people who are very high level, but they don't seem to be doing as much damage or going through things as quickly as you would think for the level. And that could be because a lot of people are starting a second profession now. Yep. They have a lot of spare spell books and restricted section books and scrolls, so they're starting on a second profession. They might be using that second profession. Yeah. I mean, don't do that if you're going to go into a Dark 5 and you know that you're not quite good enough, because that's not quite fair.
Quickly change over.
Ray has got a professor as his second profession.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite Dark 5 level on that yet.
No, I'm not quite level 14 with the professor yet, but
remember, so even though you can look at somebody and go, oh, they're a level 50 Magi, they know what they're doing, it's fine, I won't bother using health potions. Be aware that they might not actually have that revive charm up to the fullest yet.
Exactly.
So they might not bring all of your stamina back. So keep a couple in reserve just in case.
Definitely, yeah. There's a lot to think about.
Yeah. Obviously, we know fortresses quite well, so I'm not really sure, and I've never really played solo. I always have at least Ray with me. So if there's anything that we haven't covered that you might have a question on, especially if you're a solo player who's now going to be playing in groups, then feel free to, leave a comment or get in touch with us.
I mean, we could literally dedicate a podcast to fortressing because there's so much to talk about, so many strategies, and we could literally sit here all day talking about it. But hope some of this helped anyway, and and good luck. Let us know how you get on because really interested to see how people are faring in fortresses. Very exciting.
Yeah.
That is going to do it for today's show. For now, thank you for tuning in. May your foundables never depart and fortresses always be favourable.